Welcome in. We're wrapping it up. This is the last Wire show for this year, at least. Been a blast. You guys will likely not need us after this week, and if you do, sorry. You can find me on social media or join the Discord because that's what's left. But outside of that, how's it going, Mike?
Good. Yeah, it's bittersweet. Hopefully you have at least some teams in the championship. Maybe tonight's game decides it. Although I was thinking about it, really, like Josh Jacobs is really the only must start, right? And maybe you're starting Kendre or a Packers receiver, but there's not a whole lot in this
Packers
game.
defense.
Packers defense, yeah, that's true. By the way, I know you're going to mention it about the 2 Wednesday games. Make sure your waivers run before then if they normally don't.
Yeah. So that's the big start for this is heads up, Christmas. There are 2 games. So if you are in a league that your waivers run on Wednesday, you need to move it up because more likely you're not going to have it set in time. Games start at noon and then 3:30 Central Time. Then we have a game Thursday and then 3 games Saturday. So you have to stay on the ball this week. If this is your championship week, you have to know who you're putting in when they're playing because you don't want to be in shambles when it comes to it's Sunday and I have to set my lineup. Nope. You will have missed out on half the games.
Yeah. There's only 9 games on Sunday, so
yeah.
And obviously no buys, so it means there's seven games not on Sunday, most of them before. So besides, of course, Monday Night Football. So yeah, set up for that. Make sure if you're dropping players from those teams, especially because sometimes you forget, you don't drop them, you realize, man, now I have no one to drop, and they get locked on your roster. So yeah, just be prepared.
Yeah, and people on keeper leagues. Now is your time to be looking at the waiver wire and looking ahead. If somebody, I don't know, potentially dropped Rashee Rice, now would be a good time to grab that person. It's those kind of things that right now you get at a discount, and if they keep it as that's your option, I would do that. Because next year people won't be paying attention, and all of a sudden you have a keeper that you got off of the waivers that, if you're lucky, you get in the 13th round or. But if you're going by draft position, maybe I would expect him to actually go pretty low next year because I think a lot of people are going to forget about it and how dominant he was to start this year. So,
yes,
things to be thinking about as we look ahead. Week 16, of course, ends tonight with the Saints and Packers. So, good luck. Like we said, Miller. It's the only waiver wire thing that you probably had, or Packers defense potentially, but outside of that, it's terrifying. So
yeah,
we'll get into quarterbacks now. And the guy I'm going with is kind of terrifying, but Mason Rudolph. 'Tis the season, have to go with it. He has 4 games over 16 points, and 2 consecutive starts now. Happy for him. In the games that he has played in full, he started and ended 216 yards on average, 1.6 touchdowns, and 1.8 interceptions. So not super, but his first 3 starts were also Buffalo, Detroit, New England. So not an ideal time to start your first games for the Titans, but just how it goes. And then last time they played the Jags, Levis got the start. He couldn't break 200 passing yards and had a actually, I think it was a 60% completion rate. So it's crazy that this guy's coming in and should be able to just catapult right past that.
Yeah, he's played well. It's kind of crazy, but yeah, for sure. And I missed the defense segment last week because of my internet problem. So I'm curious about the whole Titans playing against the Titans and Levis doesn't work out, but we'll get to that, I guess.
Rudolph still got 3 picks last week, so it worked out if you played the defense.
Very true. And he's
never steered me wrong.
He's thrown a pick in basically every game he's played in this year. So, like that. I mean, Caleb Williams, it's just seemingly they're going to be down a lot. They're going to be chasing points. They're going to be throwing the ball. I mean, he's thrown the ball 40 times this last week. He's done that several times in the last 6 weeks or so.
And he knows who to get it to because, you have the star player on your team that's old and you paid him. Might as well, get your worth out of it.
Yeah, no, for sure. And he plays Seattle, which I'm not, it's not a team I'm worried about at all. And a team that can put up points too. So potentially, and could be a little bit of a shootout maybe. So I I like Caleb Williams. He can give you rushing floor as well. You just look at his last 6 games. He has 30 or more in. He has 30 or more in 3 of his last 6. He has a 70-yard game. No, 4 of his last 6. Sorry, 27-yard game. So he can give you that too. Another guy who we were talking about, Bryce Young, been playing better. Good to see. He for fantasy, how much is it going to translate? I don't know. He has been also giving you a rushing floor. I think the last 6 weeks or so, he's rushing for about 30 yards a game. So that's really good. Like, I know that doesn't maybe seem like a lot, but if you play in 4 point per passing touchdown, that's basically it's 75% of a touchdown, right? So he's been playing well. He looks better. Just wanted to kind of shout him out maybe in those. That's more for deeper leagues and stuff like that. Play the Cardinals, who are just kind of a weird team. I don't know if they're good defensively or not, or who knows, but they're just a weird team in general. As well as the other guys we always mention. I know I've mentioned him, Steve's mentioned him, guys like Drake May. He's still under 20%, and I just don't think people realize how good he's been this year. Also another guy with a rushing floor, so he's been good. 2 touchdowns and 260 yards and through the air and 30 yards on the ground against Buffalo. So you'll take that. Plays the Chargers, I think he can do something.
He's not going to be able to run the balls easily, so he's going to have to throw it, right? That should be the case, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. Hopefully. Some good options for sure.
Steve, you have anybody you want to throw in on?
Bryce Young was really the one that I wanted to highlight, so I think we got that covered and we're good to go.
Perfect. All right, into running backs. My guy is Michael Carter, 0.1% rostered, very widely available. This is mostly due to the fact that Connor left the game with injury. Trey Benson missed this past game. Not sure if he's going back, and Dallas was not touching the ball. He saw 1 target, so it looks like it's going to be Michael Carter. For that, he saw 5 targets and had 6 carries after Connor left and did fine. And this is a team that's kind of their identity is they run the ball. It's the one consistent that they have. And if you get the starting back for them, if it's not Carter, Steve Benson's available. But you have to watch the report on who's playing because that's going to be a big part of it.
Yeah. Yeah, it could be a decent one there. We've seen Michael Carter in the past, and could he have one good game? Sure, like he can. So
you're giving the ball 15 to 20 times, and then he's seeing he saw 5 targets in one game. That's more than enough for a decent day for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Kendra Miller, who's going to be playing here in 15, 20 minutes or so. If he's still out there and you can somehow add him, I definitely would. He's still under 50%, so maybe he's out there for you guys. Probably not, but or you're not able to pick him up. But I think he could just have, they could showcase him for these last few weeks, see what they got in him, and why not? It's going to be tough against the Green Bay and stuff. I don't know how much he's. I just don't know offensively how this team's going to do, but nice to see if Kendra Miller can put something together there. Tajay Spears, are we trusting Tajay Spears? 10.
My love of Tajay Spears, man. It's not fair. He's extremely talented, but he just can't stay healthy to save his life.
Yeah. My only fear is because it's been blowouts, right? The last 2 games.
Chasing points is in there.
Yeah, and they play Jacksonville this week, so I don't really know if it's going to be chasing point blowout situation, but it also could be they just destroy them and through the run game. And obviously, if Pollard's out, who he is dealing with injuries and stuff, Spears is a must start. But it's tough to rely on him. Definitely more for deeper leagues.
And in their first matchup, Pollard had 21 carries for 100 yards. So if if Pollard is out, Spears can probably do that pretty easily.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Raiders guys. I mean, Madison. It seems like it's going to be both Madison and Abdullah, but I like Abdullah more than
PPR,
Madison. Yeah, for sure. And they seem to use him around the goal line. So, I think either one of those potentially could be, if you're a little bit desperate, which hopefully you're not going into the championship game, but Madison did have 12 carries and 4 catches. And then there was one more. Kenny McIntosh from Seattle. If both Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker are out, that's a very deep one, kind of like the Michael Carter situation. I guess he's the next one up. I don't know for sure, but he is the next one. He's on their active roster. I think he's more of a special teams guy, but could just be like, hey, we need you, so get in there kind of situation.
Yeah, the other thing is, do you have any interest in a 49ers back? I know it's not going to be Taylor, I don't think, this week. I think they might try out Vaughn or Abanikanda. Is you have any way you're leaning?
Yeah, if I knew like Abanikanda, for example, yeah, because I think he's an interesting one because he has speed. He kind of fits that 49ers profile of like, size, speed type of player. I think he ran like a 4.3 something a couple years ago there. It's just, I don't know how we can trust that's who it's going to be, because it was Taylor this last week, right? Like his role was basically as the starter. He played 80% of the snaps, but he didn't do much with it, So if I knew who was going to be, I wouldn't mind one of the other guys. I don't really want to start Taylor, but if it's like a Abanikanda, I wouldn't mind it.
Yeah, I pretty solidly put my plant on anybody not named Patrick Taylor last week, and it worked out pretty nicely for anybody who started pretty much anybody else. So
yeah, it goes to show, like, I know 49ers, we feel like they can just make any running back good. There is a limit, right? There is at some point, it's like, all right, he only got 8
is not
there.
the answer.
Yeah, he's just a career special teamers. Like he's been around the NFL for a while. His most carries in a season is 32. Actually, this year he might set his career high in carries. So, it's just there's a limit to how deep you can go. And so, yeah, I kind of want to just avoid that whole situation, unfortunately.
Steve, anybody?
Nope, we're good.
Just get your handcuffs. All right, that's where we're at.
I mean, at this point, you don't even need them. This is the time of the season where if you need the roster spot, you can dump them because it's the last game of the year. It's the last game of the year. No holding anything back now.
Still, we saw how well that worked. I was saying that right as we started, and then Kamara gets hurt. And I'm like, well, good thing we got Miller.
Yeah, but
and then Pollard gets hurt. It's like,
okay, so
good thing you got Pollard.
If you hold a handcuff right now and an injury happens this weekend, it does nothing for you.
Yeah.
Just hold through practices. What if something happens in practice? I guess
because that's been happening, especially with hamstrings. I don't know what's happening in practice with a hamstring, but man, it seems like people have been going down left and right.
As soon as you know that your person is 100% starting, you can dump the handcuff.
And it's Christmas. You don't know what those guys are going to get for Christmas, and they get on one of those hoverboards and they break their leg or something. It is a tradition of mine in my, obviously non-keeper dynasty leagues, but like I do when it gets to that like Sunday morning, Saturday night, I like to just drop my whole bench and like, all right, this is my starters. This is like I'm kind of going to war, like these are my guys. I like to do that. I don't know. It's just a tradition for me. So obviously don't do that if you're in keepers or dynasty. That's not smart, but redraft, you can do that. It's like, these are my guys. Let's go to war, So, but yeah, maybe just wait unless you really need to pick up someone, then you can drop that handcuff.
Yeah. By Friday, you should know you can drop whoever that is, and there's still options available more than likely. So, all right, going into wide receivers. Shouldn't be any surprise. Back up to the guy, Jalen McMillan, 42.5. That's a big jump. That's up 32% from last week. So the rostership percentage has gone up. Good for you. But he is a wide receiver too. Still looks good. Ott was also out, which helped boost him 3 games in a row, over 16 fantasy points. So this team is going to need to throw. They are still alive. So might as well roll him out there. The other person I'm going to go to is kind of cheating. But Wan'Dale Robinson is 36.9%. I have to bring him up. He's been a guy that I've really liked playing. I've expected a lot more out of him. Giants aren't good, but with that in mind, like Robinson has seen pretty much 10 targets every week for the past 3 weeks. Granted, he's averaging around 7 fantasy points because the quarterbacks can't really get the ball to him. So if that were to change, could end up being a big week. But definitely somebody I'm going to look at for, I don't know, again, a potential keeper for you. Same thing with McMillan. It's a potential keeper for you.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, McMillan, you can definitely be starting and stuff like that. I know we were just talking people in the Discord and stuff, and I like McMillan, and you know, it's interesting. These rookies that get drafted, like you don't expect much from them. You know, I'm talking, I guess, more like you said, keeper for next year for dynasty. But it's just like, just show me something. Give me a stretch of like where I can believe in you and hold on to you. And like, this is exactly what you need, like from McMillan. So it's good to see.
And Bryce Young, you bringing that up, there's a potential stash right there that you're getting off the waiver wire. And I'm betting more often than not, he is not going to be drafted. So it's somebody you can get at the end of the your draft next year, and it's going to be nice and easy. So
yeah.
All right, sorry. Go ahead and tell them your
you're fine.
Options.
Yeah, Romeo Doubs again playing here in now about 10 minutes or so. It's just a guy again. The philosophy here is like you're now grabbing these guys to start, right? You're not picking them up for any other reason besides starting them. And usually guys off the waiver wire, half the battle is like, are they playing? And Romeo Doubs is one of those few guys that's consistently on the waiver wire. He's playing like 80% of the snaps for a good offense. And he could have a game like he did last week where, you know, you're probably going to need a touchdown, but that's probably the case for most guys, you know, besides the exceptions like a McMillan or something. But he's always a good candidate to get a touchdown because, again, good offense, and he's running a lot of routes. Kind of the same thing with like the next guy. I mean, Rashad Bateman, this is deeper, but he has 3 touchdowns. He's playing 80% of the snaps, 3 touchdowns over the last 2 weeks. It's tough because he had 1 catch for 14 yards and a touchdown, but you know, again, like you're pretty desperate if you're going to the waiver wire or for wide receiver and you're looking for a start, right? So playing the Texans, not the best matchup, but I guess you could do worse. Calvin Austin, as long as Pickens is out, Calvin Austin seems to be doing things. You know, he has the 5 targets and 65 yards each of the last 2 weeks. That kind of correlates with Pickens being out. So he might be a good one if Pickens is out. And then I'm curious what you think about Marquise Brown, who had 8 targets and he played 27% of the snaps. That's kind of crazy. Like you assume it's going to go up, right? His snap percentage probably goes up to 10% more or so, 15%, maybe more. I don't know.
It's hard to tell because right now it seems like they're feeding worthy. So, and they're both kind of specialized players. Hopkins is going to be out there, and it looks like Brown is probably going to be switching out with Watson. So when they run 3 wide, he'll be out there. But even then, the rotation was weird, and he was clearly targeted a lot for what he was in there for. But I don't know. I always struggle to trust a one-off because, again, we saw Kadarius Toney do a one-off with Mahomes, and like it just tanks you. And I don't want to be the guy, oh, he's fresh off, so they made sure to really get him involved in the first game, and then he just tapers for you next week, and you get like a 2.
Yeah, it's just, man, like I wanted, like I kind of liked Marquise Brown this year,
like heading
into the year. Yeah. You know, but then obviously he didn't play. Obviously it was Rashee Rice, and then I liked Marquise Brown because we've seen him go through these stretches of like I think we think of him as like, oh, the deep threat and has to score a long bomb. Like he's kind of been like a target hog a bit at times when he was with Arizona. But yeah, it's really hard to trust. It's just like, man, seeing 8 targets and 5 catches in 27% of the snaps, it's like that means you were literally, when you're out there, we're throwing you the ball. It's basically what it meant.
I understand the argument because like you were saying, Worthy led the team with 11 targets on 80% of the snaps.
Yeah.
So he only had 3 more targets and was out there a lot longer. And you would think as Hollywood gets healthier, he's going to get worked in more. But I think by the time he's actually like a huge part of the offense, it'll be the second round of the playoffs.
Yeah.
And not really.
There is something too, like they do, because there's the argument, it's like, why'd they even bring him back? Well, they want to get him ramped up for the playoffs. So, we have 2 more games to do that. But yeah, I generally agree. Really hard to trust, but it is intriguing to see that. But yeah, I don't know how you can trust that in your fantasy championships, unless you're in a pretty deep league, of course.
Yeah. And at best, that's the other thing. If you're starting him, you have to play on wide receiver because it's a Wednesday game. So it would be your flex. Like, you don't want to get rid of your flex that early and be in that situation to just be without that potential upside play that you might need, or just guaranteed points. Having a 0 there would be brutal.
Yeah.
So, yeah, too much risk for me.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Steve, anybody else you want to touch on?
No, that was just the one that popped out to me.
Yeah. I've kind of figured, but want to give you the opportunity just in case. So, into your favorite position, tight end. I'm still going to go back to the well here. Brenton Strange, 26.6. I know last week was brutal, but it was just Parker Washington was the other guy. And we're back to a game where I think the opportunity is there for the tight end. Potential back and forth, a lot of a better game than the first time they met. The 10-6, I don't think is going to happen. I'm going to guess it's probably closer to a 24-17. And so the more opportunity being there, I'm fine rolling out Strange. So very decent matchup again. I know the 4 wasn't ideal. So just how that goes sometimes.
Yeah. I thought I read somewhere that he got like benched or something potentially. I don't know if it was like they knew for sure, but like they were like speculating. I'm just double checking if I did see that somewhere, but I don't know. I thought I read that like he potentially got benched. I'm trying to see how much he actually played. I mean, he played half the snaps. I don't know.
Well, weird one. Oh no, I was like maybe because he fumbled heading into the half.
Maybe. Yeah, that might be it.
So, I mean, which again, not too surprising. But this is one of the guys that they decided to bring in at tight end, and they really seem to like him with behind Ingram. So when Ingram's been out, it's been a strange show. So
yeah, just monitor that. I think it was like he didn't play in the fourth quarter or something weird. Chigakonkwo, who a guy I've always liked, and since Mason Rudolph's been the quarterback, he's had 2 good games. I don't know if that's just a coincidence or not, but we have 21 targets, 17 catches, and about 70 yards a game. So
that was my pick. He's got a 36.7% target share.
It's insane.
Yep.
Since Mason Rudolph took over as a starter, it's absolutely bonkers.
Well, who else is he throwing to? Like, that's
right. Earlier in the season, it was mixing in with Hopkins, and with Hopkins gone now, it's just all Chig. It's crazy.
Yep.
Yeah, and Mason throwing the ball is a big boost to that as well.
Yeah, and he's a talented, like, he's not a traditional tight end, which I think why he doesn't. Maybe some coaches don't like him, or he doesn't fit into the scheme or something. But like at this point, he needs someone catching the ball, and he can. Yeah. He's probably top 3 or 4 on their team there. So,
well, I mean, he is. I would put him up against like Kraft. Tucker Kraft and him are similar kind of players.
Mm-hmm.
Not your traditional tight end. Good pass catchers, make the big play. For
sure. Yeah, it's hard to ignore. That's for sure. And then Dalton Schultz, with Tank Dell now unfortunately being out, maybe it's going to be Schultz we'll see. Like he's kind of just been whatever this year. Like he's been just one of those tight ends. He gives you 3-4 catches and you hope 40 yards. But he has 2 touchdowns in the last 3 games. 60 yards 3 weeks ago, 45 yards with 5 catches this week. So maybe he gets a couple more targets his way with Tank Dell being out. But yeah, definitely Chigakonkwo. I don't mind Brenton Strange either, as long as he's going to be the guy again.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's enough tight end and the defenses, because I think this is where people are really coming for the show.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be any surprise, but going back to the well and anybody against the Browns right now, I'm taking Steve's line. And this week it's the Dolphins who get that draw with 46.6% rostered. But DTR continued to turn the ball over. Granted, he is dealing with injury, so it could be Bailey Zappi. Still not that scared. But this past game, 2 interceptions, barely went over. Sorry, it was 305 all-purpose yards with only 157 passing yards, no touchdowns passing, but 1 rushing touchdown. Thank you, Ford. But Dolphins are a better defense than the Bengals, who are currently sitting at the defense number 2 on this week. And they're just been a horrible defense all year.
Yep.
Like, they haven't been good. So Dolphins should be able to put a point, and just it's an easy stream for me.
Yeah, no, for sure. I like that. Colts versus the Giants. I like that with their quarterback situation. I can't even keep track of it. I know it was Drew Lock. I thought it was going to be DeVito again. Is it Lock this week again?
We don't know because Lock is getting an MRI, I think, today.
They keep trading off injuries. So.
Yes. So it's either going to be DeVito or Boyle.
I'd much rather DeVito. I think Boyle at least can just not just make these crazy decisions. But Boyle knows who he is, and he's like, all right, this is who I am, and I made a living off of doing this. So yeah, don't mind that. Chargers versus Patriots. I mean, Patriots aren't that bad of an offense, and the Chargers defense hasn't been as good as of late. But I don't know. That's one, like, if you're desperate, you can potentially go there. And then obviously, I mean, the star of the show is Steve's choice. So
always.
Yeah.
Always.
I thought I thought it was anyone against Will Levis, but it's
right. I thought they were on to me, but nope. It's still just anyone against the Titans.
Yeah.
One more time we get to roll out Jacksonville. I will say this too. Since their bye week, believe it or not, in week 12, the Cincinnati Bengals, who have had some premium matchups, lead the league in interceptions, are 5th in forced fumbles. They are the number 2 fantasy defense since week 12. So they got to play the Titans. They got to play the Browns. Again, they've had great matchups in there, but they have not been horrible. They're playing Denver this week. I don't know if I'd roll them out again, but it's just, I found that fascinating.
Yeah.
Well, it also helps that they're putting up a lot of points. Like if you're scoring, the other team's more likely to have to chase or try and keep up.
Typically they're in shootouts. Like they have to score a lot of points.
Yeah.
Like they have to, they ultimately lose games 45-42. I mean, that's just really how it goes.
What about I didn't see what they did yesterday, the Cowboys defense. I see.
Well, it's not really fair because last they played the Bucks, but they did.
Yeah.
Decent. They did pretty well against the Bucks. I think they held them to 17 points.
The number 6 defense on the week.
Yeah. And I'm looking at previously 22, 17, 4, 15, and then what they did last week. And they get the Eagles without Jalen Hurts, maybe. So I think since Micah Parsons been back and that defense is obviously different. So if they play Pickett, I don't mind it.
Yeah. I don't love it, but it's not terrible.
Yeah. Yeah, it's more if Jalen Hurts is going to be out.
I mean, he missed most of the game. He was out was the start of the second quarter or into the first quarter that he took the concussion?
It was like right at the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was right at the beginning.
I think it was already like 14-7 when he left. But I mean, right now the Commanders are the number 10 defense on the week. So it's not like they put up massive numbers. Washington has been great anyway, but I don't know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, Barkley could just run all over you and on his way to breaking the single season rushing record.
Who's playing the Giants next week?
That was the Colts. That was my team.
Yeah,
there.
The Colts are horrible.
But I mean, Giants.
Their defense is fine.
Right?
The Colts are one of the few teams that has not been anybody against the Titans.
Right. That's pretty bad. Twice.
That's how bad they've been this season.
Yeah.
Let's see. And then who do the Raiders play?
The Saints.
Oh God, that's a slop fest.
I mean, you could take either.
I thought about that too. That's the only reason I knew that one.
Play either side of that if you wanted.
Yeah.
I mean,
seriously.
the Raiders defense the last 5 weeks, 15-6, not in points, rank. Defense 15, 6, 9, and 12 last 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And that's against Kansas City, Tampa Bay, Atlanta, and then Jacksonville this week. So the matchups haven't been ideal, and they're still getting production. It's pretty solid.
Yeah.
But you'd have to be super desperate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody would have to blow all of their fab on Miami, and somebody else would have to blow all of their fab on the Jags, and then you're like, well, I got nothing left.
Yeah.
That'd be about it.
Yeah, no. Not ideal, but again, it's going to be very difficult this week. Like we've been talking about, it was weird. I don't know if you guys noticed it, but Sunday we got the practice report for the Steelers, and that freaked me out.
I did see that, yeah. Yeah, that was weird. It's like, man, it's never had a week like this, that's for sure. So NFL is just taking over. They're trying to just take over everything. So on top of the defense thing, look out for bad weather. You know, it's way too early to predict bad weather now, but start looking Friday if there's any really bad weather games in a decent or like bad matchups or even bad defenses against bad teams and stuff. So yeah, always watch out for that stuff.
Yeah, like theoretically tonight. We'll see. It's supposed to be rainy, right? Everybody was so worried about that yesterday. I don't know if it actually going to happen, but things that I don't really care about.
Is there? Yeah, it's supposed to be rainy.
That's part of the reason I was like, oh yeah, definitely a good time to play Kindred. Then if it's going to be rainy, him and Jacobs, that's all you need. Just make me a good enough hole.
Be snowing there at this point, but I don't know. Maybe a little bit of both, some sleet.
Yeah, that'll make it messy. All right. Well, in any case, thank you all for joining us. Had a blast this year. Hope again to see you next year. But yeah, outside of that, happy holidays. Enjoy. Hopefully you get some time off. Go visit family, do all that fun stuff. So until 2025, remember as always to keep up the nonsense.